Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it, and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we're discussing a 2019 special series from Breitling, not a limited edition, but a special series dedicated to the memory of the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk American fighter aircraft of World War II and those who flew it. This is technically the 2019 Breitling Aviator 8 B01 Chronograph 43 Curtiss Warhawk. It is a mouthful, but all you need to know is it's essentially a modified Navitimer 8 B01. 43mm in stainless steel. It's part of the series that was launched back in 2018, the first new model line under newly minted Breitling CEO Georges Kern. Now the timepiece is easy to wear at 43mm on my 16cm circumference wrist because it's not terribly large lug to lug. Kern said he was going to cut down the lug spacing of Breitling watches, and sure enough he did. 50.5mm across the wrist means that I can recommend this watch for wrists as small as 14 to 14.5cm circumference. It's not a thin watch, but nor is it thick. 14.2mm. It'll slide underneath a jacket cuff, no problem. And the spacing between the lugs, a very contemporary 23mm. This is one broad piece over the wrist. Now the strap is a textile weave in military style olive drab. You can see a monotone stitch folded edge, a thick thing with quite a good deal of material invested. It's a conventional calfskin on the underside, and you can see that it's matched with a simple Breitling polished and satin finished pin buckle. A nice addition, and you can see that there's even a little bit of a parallelism between the shape of the lug and the beveling of the lug and the profile of the buckle itself. Simple case, you can see that there's a little bit of a downturned, squared off profile to the end of the lug. There's an expanding polished bevel at the corner of the watch on all four sides across the lug. Lug hoods of satin, case flank of satin, the bezels of polish, and the bezel's an interesting piece because, oddly, not every Navitimer 8 bezel actually features calibrations. This one's distinctive with high polish, and you can see lacquered indices and numerals. Many of these Navitimer 8 watches still feature bezels with only one index, the one at the top of the bezel, so they are at best rudimentary timing organs. This one, being more or less fully calibrated by Navitimer 8 standards, is far more useful. It is silken smooth. It feels as though it rotates on Teflon, and that might not be far from reality. As with the strap, the dial is olive drab, with a few well-chosen shocks of silver, white, and red, the idea being to pay tribute to the Flying Tigers livery that was featured on the American Volunteer Squadron in China. Technically, they were exactly that, a volunteer squadron assisting the Chinese ally before the United States formally entered hostilities in World War II. And the aircraft that they flew was the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, built in my home state of New York in about 14,000 copies, made from 1938 to 1944. It was probably the most famous American fighter plane of the war, not named Mustang. That said, it was a little bit of a dated aircraft, and although by all standards most Japanese aircraft outperformed it, it was big and heavy, which meant it was lethal in a dive, and it had 6 machine guns, which meant it was lethal, period. Flown by pilots with panache, it's a aircraft that wound up being remembered quite well, and this aircraft now has a watch in its honor. Let's talk about the basics. Loomed dial, obviously, olive drab, a nice tricolor, albeit unconventional with the silver red and the green, and then on the caseback. This is something new, as we rarely saw casebacks with display sapphires in the previous Breitling regime. You have the Breitling caliber B01. Launched in 2009, it's an in-house chronograph, automatic winding, 70-hour power reserve, both vertical clutch and column wheel, and it has wonderfully positive column wheel action. Let me see if I can show you the column wheel in action. It's slightly blocked out by the empennage of that Curtiss P-40, but it has one of the finest chronograph pusher feels you will encounter because of its column wheel tuning. It's up there with the Rolex 4130 and the Zenith El Primero caliber 400. You also have the vertical clutch system, so there's no jump or stagger to the seconds hand when you start the watch, and if you so choose, you can leave the chronograph running without any additional wear or tear on the movement. It features both stop seconds and a quick set date, 47 joules. It beats it a modern high beat 28,800 vibrations per hour. All of this water resistant down to 100 meters, and it's a COSC certified Swiss chronometer and thus very precise. It's a watch that puts it all together. Quite honestly, an aviator's watch sufficiently water resistant to swim without concern, and a modern timepiece that manages to honor the past without being one of those cloying vintage tributes. I dig it. I'm into aviation, I'm into New York built aircraft, and I'm into the Breitling Renaissance. I also love this particular chronograph feel, and I really do feel it goes up against the best, including, dare I say, the Datagraph caliber 951. You can see this Breitling, take a deep breath here, Aviator 8 B01 Chronograph 43 Curtiss Warhawk, and make it yours on the watch box. The Breitling Aviator 8 Curtiss Warhawk by night, a different shade of green.